Daniel Harper never imagined that one exhausted comment spoken in a rain-soaked parking lot to the most intimidating woman he'd ever worked for would become the turning point between surviving and actually living. That night, drenched and desperate, he crossed a line he didn't mean to cross. What happened next didn't just surprise him, it quietly dismantled everything he thought he knew about strength, loneliness, and second chances. The rain came down like punishment. Daniel stood under the flickering overhang of the warehouse loading dock, water streaming off the brim of his work cap, his jacket soaked through to the skin. His shift had ended 20 minutes ago, but the bus wasn't running. The transit app on his cracked phone screen simply read, "Service suspended due to weather conditions." He exhaled slowly, watching his breath fog in the cold air. His son Owen was home with Mrs. Walker from downstairs. She'd agreed to watch him until 8. It was already 7:45. Daniel muttered a curse, swiping rain from his face. Across the lot beneath the harsh glare of a sodium light, a sleek black sedan idled near the executive entrance. He recognized it immediately, Catherine Morrison's car. His boss. The woman who ran operations for the entire distribution center with the kind of precision that made grown men check their work twice. She emerged from the building umbrella, already open, her charcoal trench coat immaculate despite the downpour. Even from 50 feet away, Daniel could see the sharpness in her posture, the way she moved through the world like she was solving an equation with every step. He looked away quickly, pulling his phone out again, as if staring at the suspended service notification would somehow change reality. Her voice cut through the rain, clear and direct. "Harper," Daniel turned surprised. Catherine was walking toward him, umbrella angled against the wind. She stopped a few feet away, her dark eyes scanning him with the same analytical attention she gave inventory reports. The words came flat, a statement of fact. "You're still here." Daniel shoved his phone into his pocket. "Bus isn't running. I'll figure something out." Catherine's gaze didn't waver. "The city shut down half the routes. You'll be waiting until morning." He knew that. He just didn't have a better option. Daniel cleared his throat. "I'll call a rideshare." Her response came quick. "In this weather, you'll pay triple and wait an hour." She studied him for a moment longer, then sighed. "Get in the car." Daniel blinked, caught off guard. "Ma'am, Catherine cut him off, her tone leaving no room for argument. "I'm offering you a ride, Harper. Don't make it complicated." He hesitated, the water dripping from his sleeves. Catherine Morrison didn't offer rides. She didn't offer anything that wasn't contractually obligated. She was fair, never cruel, never arbitrary, but she kept a wall between herself and everyone else. Management on one side, workers on the other. Clean lines. His voice came careful. "I don't want to put you out." Catherine turned without waiting for his answer, walking back toward the sedan. "You're not. I'm going that direction anyway." Daniel stood frozen for 3 more seconds, then jogged after her. The interior of Catherine's car smelled like leather and something faintly floral. Lavender, maybe. Daniel sat stiffly in the passenger seat, hyper-aware of how his wet jacket was probably ruining the upholstery. He kept his hands folded in his lap, staring straight ahead as Catherine navigated out of the parking lot and onto the empty streets. The rain hammered against the windshield. The wipers worked overtime, barely keeping up. Catherine's voice came steady. "Where do you live?" Daniel gave the address, 9th and Elmhurst, the apartment building near the old cinema. She nodded, adjusting her route on the dashboard GPS. They drove in silence for a few minutes, the only sound the rhythmic thump of the wipers and the low hum of the engine. Daniel cleared his throat. "Thank you for this." Catherine's eyes stayed on the road. "It's fine." The word came again, quieter. "Still, I appreciate it." She glanced at him briefly, then back at the road. "You've been here, 6 months?" Daniel corrected automatically. 7. Started last June. Something shifted in her expression, though her voice remained neutral. "You're reliable, consistent. That's worth something." It wasn't praise exactly, just an observation. But coming from Catherine Morrison, it felt significant. Daniel kept his voice steady. "I try to know." Catherine's hands tightened slightly on the wheel. "You do more than try. Your error rate is lower than most of the crew, and you don't call out." She paused, and when she spoke again, her tone held a question. "You have a kid, don't you?" Daniel tensed. He didn't talk about Owen at work. Didn't want anyone thinking he'd use his son as an excuse for anything. The admission came reluctant. "Yeah, a son. He's 8. Catherine nodded, understanding, crossing her features. "That's why you pick up the weekend shifts." It wasn't a question, but Daniel nodded anyway. Her voice softened just barely. That's smart. Stability matters. Daniel looked out the window, watching the rain blur the streetlights into smears of gold and white. He thought about the overdue electric bill on his kitchen counter, the dentist appointment he'd been postponing for Owen because the copay was too high, the way his son asked every few weeks if they could get a pet, something small like a hamster, and how Daniel always said, maybe next year, buddy. The word tasted hollow in his mouth. Stability, sure. They turned onto Ninth Street. Daniel was about to point out his building when Catherine slowed the car, frowning at something ahead. Her voice came sharp. What the hell? Daniel leaned forward. The entire block was dark. No street lights, no apartment windows glowing, just blackness. Understanding hit powers out. Catherine pulled up to the curb in front of his building. Daniel could see a utility truck parked halfway down the block, orange cones scattered around an open manhole. A worker in a reflective vest waved a flashlight, gesturing at something underground. Catherine's assessment came clinical. Looks like a transformer, Blue. Daniel nodded slowly, his mind already doing the math. No power meant no heat, no lights. Owen would be scared. Mrs. Walker was 73 and used a CPAP machine at night. She couldn't stay in a building without electricity. His hand found the door handle. I need to get upstairs. Catherine's voice stopped him. Harper. He paused, looking back. Her expression was unreadable. How long do you think the power will be out? Daniel shook his head. No idea. Could be hours. Could be all night. She drummed her fingers once on the steering wheel, thinking. Then she said something Daniel never expected. You can't stay here. He started to protest. I'll be fine. I've got candles. Catherine's tone left no room for argument. You have an 8-year-old and no heat. It's 38 degrees outside. She met his eyes, and her next words came firm. Come back to my place, just for tonight. You can sleep on the couch. Your son can take the guest room. When the power's back, you go home. Daniel stared at her, stunned. Miss Morrison, I can't. Her voice cut through his objection. It's Catherine, and yes, you can. She held his gaze, something shifting in her expression. Listen to me. You're not in trouble. You're not fired. You're not a creep. You're just tired. But we're going to set something straight right now. Daniel nodded, waiting. Catherine's words came deliberate. You're my employee. I offered you help because you needed it, not because I wanted anything from you, not because I expected anything in return. You understand. The honesty in her voice made something tight in his chest loosen. Yes, ma'am. Her gaze didn't waver. And if you ever feel uncomfortable here, if you want to leave, if you need space, you say so. No consequences, no weirdness. Got it. Daniel found himself nodding again. Got it. Catherine straightened in her seat. Now go get your kid and let's go. Owen sat in the back seat, clutching his backpack and staring wide-eyed at the interior of the car. He hadn't said much since Daniel retrieved him from Mrs. Walker's darkened apartment, but his silence was loud. Daniel could feel the boy's curiosity radiating off him in waves. Catherine's house was in Riverside Terrace, a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and houses that had actual front yards. She pulled into the driveway of a 2-story craftsman with a wraparound porch and neat flower beds that somehow looked maintained even in the middle of a storm. Owen's whisper came awed, wow. Daniel shot him a look, keeping his voice low. Behave. Inside the house was warm and softly lit. Hardwood floors stretched under their feet, built-in bookshelves lined the walls, and a fireplace with a mantel held a single framed photograph, Catherine younger standing beside an older woman who had the same sharp eyes. Catherine shrugged out of her coat, her voice carrying that familiar efficiency. Take your shoes off. I'll get you both towels. Daniel and Owen stood awkwardly in the entryway, dripping onto the mat. Owen looked up at his father, eyes wide with questions Daniel couldn't answer. He shook his head slightly. I don't know either, kid. Catherine returned with 2 thick towels and a stack of closed sweatpants and an oversized hoodie. She handed the pile to Owen. These might be big on you, but they're dry. Bathroom's down the hall. Go change. Owen took the clothes carefully like they were made of glass and disappeared down the hallway. Catherine handed Daniel a towel, her tone businesslike. There's another set for you in the guest room upstairs. Second door on the left. Daniel's voice came quiet. Thank you. Really, you didn't have to do this. Something flickered in her expression. I know I didn't have to. She looked at him evenly. But you're here now, so stop apologizing and go get dry. 20 minutes later, Daniel came back down wearing borrowed clothes that smelled faintly of cedar and laundry detergent. Owen was already in the living room, sitting cross-legged on the couch, a mug of hot chocolate in his hands. Catherine sat in the armchair across from him, a cup of tea balanced on her knee. Her eyes found Daniel as he entered. Your son tells me he likes space. Owen grinned, whipped cream dotting his upper lip. I'm going to be an astronaut. Catherine's response came serious, not patronizing. That's a solid plan. You'll need to be good at math. Owen nodded enthusiastically. I'm okay at math. My dad helps me. Daniel sat down beside his son, ruffling his hair. When I can remember how fractions work. Catherine's mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. Fractions are a nightmare. Daniel felt surprise ripple through him. Right, I swear they didn't teach them this way when I was a kid. Her voice held dry humor. They didn't. The curriculum's changed 3 times since we were in school. I had to relearn division last year to help my nephew with homework. Felt like learning a new language. Daniel laughed a real laugh, the kind that surprised him. The sound felt foreign in his throat. I thought I was just dumb. Catherine's eyes met his, something soft in them. You're not dumb, Harper. The system's just unnecessarily complicated. They fell into an easy rhythm after that. Owen talked about school, about his favorite teacher, about the science project he was working on. Catherine listened with genuine attention, asking questions that weren't patronizing. Daniel watched quietly, stunned, as his boss engaged his son like he was a colleague, not a child. Eventually, Owen's eyes started to droop. Daniel caught Catherine's glance. Her voice came gentle. Guest room's ready. I'll show you. The guest room was upstairs, decorated simply but comfortably. A double bed with a thick quilt, a nightstand with a lamp, a window that looked out over the backyard. Owen climbed into bed with odd protest exhaustion finally catching up. Daniel tucked him in, smoothing the blanket over his shoulders. Owen's voice came small. Dad? Daniel sat on the edge of the bed. Yeah, buddy. The question held weight. Is Miss Morrison nice? Daniel smiled. Yeah, she is. So she is? Owen processed this. She's scary at first, but then she's not. Daniel's chest tightened at his son's perception. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Owen's eyes fluttered closed. Within minutes, his breathing evened out. Daniel stood there for a moment, watching his son sleep, feeling gratitude and fear in equal measure. Then he quietly left the room, pulling the door almost closed behind him. Downstairs, Catherine was in the kitchen, rinsing out the mugs. Daniel hesitated in the doorway, suddenly aware of how surreal this entire night had been. His voice came rough. He's out. Catherine didn't turn around. Kids crash hard when they feel safe. Daniel leaned against the door frame, the weight of the day settling into his bones. Something about this moment, this woman in her kitchen, his son sleeping upstairs in her home, the warmth and safety after months of cold struggle, made his defenses crack. Catherine dried her hands on a towel, then turned to face him. You look like you needed help. So I helped. Daniel swallowed hard. I don't know how to thank you. She studied him for a long moment, and in her eyes he saw recognition. Not pity, not charity, just acknowledgement that she knew what it was like to need help and have no one to ask. Maybe it was the exhaustion, maybe it was the warmth of the house, or the fact that someone had shown him kindness without asking for anything in return. Maybe it was the way Catherine stood there, arms crossed, looking at him like he was a person and not just a line item on a staffing report. Whatever it was, Daniel's brain short-circuited. The words tumbled out before he could stop them. He cleared his throat. You're really pretty. I mean, not that I just meant. Horror crashed over him as he realized what he'd just said. Catherine's expression didn't change. She just raised one eyebrow, waiting. Daniel felt his face go hot. I'm sorry, that was God. That was so inappropriate. I didn't mean I wasn't trying to. Her voice cut through his panic. Harper, take a breath. Daniel did his heart hammering against his ribs. Catherine's tone stayed calm, measured. You're exhausted. You've had a long day. You're in an unfamiliar place, and your brain is misfiring. I get it. Relief flooded through him, but shame still burned in his chest. I didn't mean to. She interrupted again. I know. Catherine stepped forward just slightly, and her expression softened. Listen to me. You're not in trouble. You're not fired. You're not a creep. You're just tired. She paused, making sure he was listening. But we're going to set something straight right now. Daniel nodded, unable to speak. Her words came firm but kind. You're my employee. I offered you help because you needed it, not because I wanted anything from you, not because I expected anything in return. You understand? His voice came hoarse. Yes, ma'am. Catherine held his gaze for a moment longer. And if you ever feel uncomfortable here, if you want to leave, if you want to try and to call someone else, if you need space, you say so. No consequences, no weirdness. Got it? Daniel nodded again, the shame beginning to recede under her steady certainty. I really am sorry. She gave him one more long look, then nodded. Apology accepted. Now go get some sleep. Couch is already made up. Daniel lay on the couch in the dark, staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet except for the faint sound of rain still pattering against the windows. A blanket was draped over him, soft and warm. He felt like an idiot. You're really pretty. Jesus Christ, what was wrong with him? But Catherine hadn't yelled, hadn't kicked him out, hadn't made him feel like garbage. She just handled it. Set boundaries, moved on. Daniel closed his eyes, replaying the conversation. The way she looked at him, not with anger, but with something close to understanding, like she knew what it was like to say the wrong thing when you were too tired to think straight. He thought about the way she talked to Owen, the way she'd listened, really listened when his son explained his dreams about space, the way she'd made hot chocolate without being asked. This woman, his boss, this intimidating, sharp-edged woman, had opened her home to him, had seen him struggling, and hadn't looked away. Daniel didn't know what to do with that, so he just lay there warm and dry for the first time in hours and let himself feel something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Gratitude. And beneath it, quieter, more dangerous hope. Morning came soft and gray. Daniel woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone moving quietly in the kitchen. He sat up disoriented, then remembered where he was. Catherine's house. The storm. The stupid thing he'd said. He groaned quietly, scrubbing his hands over his face. Owen's voice came from the stairs. Dad! Daniel looked up. His son stood at the bottom, fully dressed, backpack slung over one shoulder. A relief flooded through him. Hey, buddy, you sleep okay? Owen nodded. Yeah, Miss Morrison made pancakes. Daniel blinked. She what? Owen grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the kitchen. Pancakes, come on, they're really good. Catherine stood at the stove, flipping a pancake with the same calm precision she probably used to approve shipping manifests. She glanced over her shoulder as Daniel entered. Her greeting came simple. Morning. Daniel's voice came rough from sleep. Morning. She set a plate in front of him, 3 pancakes perfectly golden. You didn't have to do this. Catherine poured herself a cup of coffee, then leaned against the counter. I know. They ate in companionable silence. Owen chattered about a dream he'd had involving robots and dinosaurs. Catherine asked clarifying questions with a completely straight face, as if robot-dinosaur hybrids were a perfectly reasonable topic for breakfast conversation. Daniel watched them, something tight in his chest, loosening just slightly. When they finally gathered their things to leave, Catherine walked them to the door. Owen hugged her impulsively, just threw his arms around her waist and squeezed. Catherine looked startled for half a second, then gently patted his shoulder. Her voice came soft. Take care, kiddo. Owen beamed up at her. Thanks for the pancakes. Catherine's lips curved. Anytime. Daniel met her eyes over his son's head. Thank you for everything. She nodded once, professional distance reasserting itself. See you Monday, Harper? The words came automatic. See you Monday. The following week passed without incident. Daniel showed up early, worked his shifts, kept his head down. Catherine ran the floor with her usual efficiency. They didn't talk about the storm, didn't talk about the night at her house, but something had shifted. It was subtle. The way Catherine paused by his station to ask if the new scheduling system was working. The way she didn't look through him anymore when she gave instructions. The way Daniel found himself less tense when she walked by. On Friday, as Daniel was clocking out, Catherine appeared beside him. Her voice held no inflection. Harper got a second. His stomach dropped. Yeah, of course. She gestured toward her office. Daniel followed, heart pounding. Catherine closed the door behind them and sat on the edge of her desk. Relax, you're not in trouble. Daniel exhaled. Okay. Her tone stayed even. I wanted to check in, make sure everything's fine after last week. The words came quick. It's fine, really. I'm sorry again for what I said. That was out of line. Catherine's voice held patience. You already apologized. I already accepted. We don't need to keep revisiting it. She paused, her gaze steady. But I do want to make sure you're okay. You and your son. Daniel blinked. We're okay. Power's been stable. Owen's good. Something in her expression softened. Good. She studied him for a moment. You know, Harper, you don't have to carry everything alone. Daniel's throat tightened. I'm handling it. Catherine's response came gentle but firm. I know you are, but handling it and drowning it looked pretty similar from the outside. He didn't know what to say to that. Her voice dropped lower. If you ever need help, real help, not just a ride in a storm, you can ask. You know that, right? Daniel nodded, not trusting his voice. Catherine straightened. All right, get out of here. Have a good weekend. Daniel stood, then paused at the door. Miss Morrison. She looked up. Catherine. He corrected himself. Catherine, why did you help me that night? She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice carried weight. Because I know what it's like to be alone. And I know what it's like when someone sees you anyway. Daniel held her gaze for a long moment, understanding passing between them. His voice came thick. Thank you. Catherine's response was quiet. Go home, Daniel. 2 weeks later, Owen got sick. It started as a cough, then a fever. Then in the middle of the night, Daniel woke to the sound of his son struggling to breathe. The ER was bright and cold and terrifying. Owen lay on a hospital bed, an oxygen mask over his face, his small chest rising and falling too fast. The doctor said it was pneumonia bacterial. They'd need to admit him, start IV antibiotics, monitor him closely. Daniel sat beside the bed, holding Owen's hand, feeling the entire world narrow to the sound of his son's labored breathing. He called work at 6 in the morning, left a voicemail saying he wouldn't be in, didn't know when he'd be back. At 8, his phone buzzed. Catherine's name appeared on the screen, and Daniel's pulse jumped. Where are you? He stared at the text, then hands shaking, typed a reply. Hospital. Owen's sick. Pneumonia. I'm sorry. I know we have the big shipment today. I'll make it up, I promise. The response came almost immediately. Don't apologize. Is he stable? Daniel's fingers moved over the keys. They're starting antibiotics, waiting to see if the fever breaks. Catherine's next message appeared. Stay with him. The shipment can wait. That's an order. Daniel read the message 3 times, something cracking in his chest. He typed back, vision blurring. Thank you. Her response was simple. Keep me updated. Owen's fever broke on the 3rd day. The antibiotics worked. The doctor said he could go home by the end of the week. Daniel barely slept. He stayed in the chair beside Owen's bed, dozing in fitful intervals, jerking awake every time a monitor beeped. On the 4th day, there was a knock on the door. Daniel looked up. Catherine stood in the doorway holding a paper bag and 2 cups of coffee. Her voice came soft. Figured you could use this. Daniel stared at her, too surprised to form words. You didn't have to come. Catherine stepped inside. I know. She handed him a coffee and set the bag on the side table. Sandwich? Eat. Daniel took the cup too, overwhelmed to argue. Catherine pulled up a second chair and sat down, glancing at Owen, who was asleep, his breathing finally steady. Her assessment came gentle. He looks better. Daniel's voice came rough. Yeah, fever's down. They think he'll be okay. Catherine nodded. Good. They sat in silence for a while. Daniel sipped the coffee black the way he liked it. He found words. How'd you know I'd take it black? Catherine gave him a sideways look. I pay attention, Harper. He smiled despite himself. After a moment, Catherine spoke again, her voice quieter. I meant what I said about not carrying everything alone. Daniel looked at her. Her gaze stayed on the floor. I get that, I really do. There was something in her tone, something that made Daniel realize this wasn't just about him. His voice came careful. You ever feel like you have to keep it together for everyone else? Like, if you stop even for a second, everything falls apart. Catherine's eyes found his, and he saw a recognition there. Every day. The admission hung between them, honest and raw. She exhaled slowly, me too. They sat there, 2 people who had spent years holding up the world, finally admitting how heavy it was. Daniel's voice came quiet. Thank you. For this. For everything. Catherine looked at him, and for the first time, Daniel saw past the walls, saw the loneliness she carried, the exhaustion, the weight of always being the one in control. Her words came simple, "You're welcome." And in that moment, something shifted between them. Not romance, not yet, but understanding. The kind that only comes when two people see each other clearly and choose not to look away. Catherine's voice dropped to barely audible. 6 years ago, my parents died. Plane crash. Daniel's breath caught. She continued, eyes distant. I was at work when it happened. Got the call from the FAA during a conference call with corporate. Her jaw clenched. I finished the call, then went to the bathroom and threw up, then went back to work. She looked at Daniel, vulnerability stark in her expression. Because I thought if I stopped, if I let myself feel it, I'd never start again. Daniel understood, the words resonating deep. That's why you work so hard. Catherine nodded. And that's why you take every overtime shift available. We're doing the same thing, Daniel. Running from grief. His name on her lips, not Harper, but Daniel, made something shift in his chest. The tears he'd been holding back for days, for years, finally broke free. Daniel's voice cracked. I'm scared. All the time. Scared I'm not enough for him. Scared I'll fail him. Like he couldn't finish. Catherine reached out her hand, finding his holding tight. You're not failing him. Look at him. They both looked at Owen, peaceful in sleep, breathing steady and strong. Her voice came fierce. You got him here. You stayed. You're fighting for him. That's not failing. That's love. The words unlocked something in Daniel. Years of holding it together, of pretending he was fine, of carrying the weight alone, it all came pouring out. Catherine didn't let go of his hand. She just sat there, steady and present, letting him break. When the storm passed, Daniel looked at her through blurred vision. Her voice came soft but certain. You know what I see when I look at you? I see a man who shows up every single day for his kid, for his child, for himself, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's not enough. That's everything. The words settled into Daniel's bones, truth he'd been too afraid to believe. His voice came raw. I don't know how to do this. Be alone. Raise him. Be enough. Catherine squeezed his hand. You're not alone anymore. The promise in those words, the commitment, the choice, the opening of a door Daniel thought had closed forever, made his chest ache with something that felt dangerously like hope. They sat there as afternoon faded to evening, hands joined two lonely people, finally admitting they were drowning. And in that admission, in that shared vulnerability, they found the first breath of air. The first step towards something neither had dared to want. Outside the hospital window, the city lights began to glow. Inside, something new was beginning, fragile and uncertain, and desperately needed. Daniel looked at Catherine, this woman who'd driven him home in a rainstorm, who'd made pancakes for his son, who'd shown up when it mattered, and felt the future shift. Not into certainty, not into ease, but into possibility. And for the first time in 6 years, Daniel Harper let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, surviving could become living. That loneliness didn't have to be permanent. That strength could be found not in carrying everything alone, but in the courage to let someone help carry the weight. Owen stirred in his sleep, a small sound of comfort. Daniel's hand tightened around Catherine's. She didn't pull away. Owen came home on Monday morning with discharge papers and a bottle of antibiotics the size of a fist. Daniel carried him up the stairs to their apartment, acutely aware of how the boy's weight had dropped in just 4 days. The hospital bracelet still circled Owen's thin wrist, too loose now, the plastic catching light as they climbed. Inside, the apartment felt different, smaller maybe. Or Daniel had changed. He settled Owen on the couch with blankets and the remote prescription for rest echoing in his head. No school for a week. No running, no excitement, just healing. Owen's voice came out, raspy, damaged from the coughing. Can we watch the space documentary? Daniel found it queued up, pressed play, and watched his son's eyes track the stars on screen. 4 days ago, he'd thought he might lose this, might watch another person he loved slip away into nothing. The terror still lived in his chest, a cold stone he couldn't quite swallow down. His phone buzzed. Kate's name on the screen sent his pulse jumping. Welcome home. How's he doing? Daniel typed back with one hand, the other resting on Owen's shoulder. Better. Doctor says full recovery expected. 2 weeks of antibiotics. The reply came fast. That's wonderful news. Take the rest of the week. Come back when you're ready. He stared at those words. When you're ready. Not when corporate policy allows. Not when your sick days run out. When you're ready, something warm unfurled in his chest, dangerous and hopeful. Thank you for everything. For coming to the hospital. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, of course, Daniel pocketed the phone and let himself feel it. The gratitude, the connection, the possibility that maybe loneliness didn't have to be permanent. Wednesday morning, he returned to the warehouse floor. The familiar sounds wrapped around him like armor forklifts, beeping pallets, dropping radio chatter crackling through the speakers. Mike found him within 10 minutes, clapping him on the shoulder hard enough to sting. Mike's grin stretched wide. There he is. How's the kid? The concern was genuine, and Daniel felt his throat tighten. He's good. Back to talking my ear off about rocket fuel ratios. A laugh rumbled from Mike's chest. That's a good sign. Morrison's been asking about you. Daniel's hand stilled on the scanner. Yeah. Mike's eyebrows climbed every day. Any word from Harper? Like she couldn't just call you herself. Heat crept up Daniel's neck. She was checking on a team member. The look Mike gave him could have melted steel. Sure, that's why she personally approved your full pay for the week you were gone. Company policy is 3 days paid sick leave. You got 5. Daniel's chest constricted. She did what? Mike tapped his nose. She went to bat for you with HR. Told them it was a family medical emergency and you needed support. Frank tried to argue policy, and she shut him down cold. The scanner beeped in Daniel's hand, forgotten. Kate had done that, had fought for him when he wasn't even there to know it. Mike's voice softened. She's not as cold as people think, just protected. But with you, he shrugged. Different. The morning passed in a blur of shipments and inventory counts. Daniel's mind kept circling back to Kate, to the hospital room, to her hand in his, to the way she'd said, "You're not alone anymore," like she meant it, bone deep. At 11, his radio crackled. Harper, report to Morrison's office. Mike waggled his eyebrows. Daniel ignored him and headed upstairs. Kate stood at her desk, back to the door, shoulders set in that familiar straight line. Her hair was up again, severe and professional. The weekend version of her soft sweater hair down felt like something he'd imagined. She turned. Her eyes found his, and something flickered there before the professional mask settled. Close the door. He did. Sat. Kate remained standing, pacing behind her desk like she couldn't quite settle. I wanted to talk to you about something. An opportunity. Daniel's stomach nodded. Okay. She stopped, met his gaze directly. Corporate approved expansion. We're adding a second shift, increasing capacity by 40%. I need supervisors who understand the floor, who can lead without micromanaging, who workers actually respect. The words hung between them. Daniel's pulse hammered in his ears. Kate's voice stayed steady. I want to promote you to floor supervisor. Salary, position, benefits, $48,000 a year. The number hit him like a fist. 48,000. He made 32 now, scraping by on every penny. 48,000 meant Owen could have new shoes when he needed them. Meant the dentist. Meant maybe eventually a house with a backyard. His voice came out rough. Kate, I can't accept this. Her expression flickered. Surprise, hurt, confusion, cycling fast. Why not? Daniel forced the words past his pride. People will think. They'll say, I only got it because of us. Because you came to the hospital. Because we... She cut him off, voice sharp as glass. Because we what? Had coffee, talked like human beings. There is no us to leverage, Daniel. The words landed like stones. He felt them settle in his chest. Kate moved around the desk, leaning against it, arms crossed. I've been documenting your performance for 3 months. Every efficiency improvement you suggested. Every time you stayed late to help train new hires. Your error rate is 0.03%. The floor average is 2.7. She pulled a folder from her desk, dropped it in front of him. Inside, printed reports, highlighted sections, margin notes in her precise handwriting. Evidence, proof. his worth measured and recorded. Kate's voice softened. This has nothing to do with anything personal. You earned this. Don't let fear of what people might think keep you from taking an opportunity you've worked for. Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, looked at the documentation, months of her watching him, seeing him, believing in him when he didn't believe in himself. The words tasted like surrender and victory at once. Okay, I'll take it. Relief washed across her face so fast he almost missed it. Good. We'll process the paperwork this week. You start officially next Monday. She straightened professional distance, reasserting, there's one more thing. HR requires disclosure of any personal relationships between different reporting levels, even friendships outside of work. Daniel's pulse kicked up. Is this a friendship? Kate's eyes held his. The silence stretched, loaded with everything they hadn't said. Hospital rooms and pancakes, and her hand in his, and the way loneliness felt less heavy when she was near. Her voice came quiet. I'd like it to be, if that's something you want. The vulnerability in those words from a woman who controlled everything, who showed weakness to no one, cracked something open in his chest. Daniel's throat worked. Yeah, I'd like that too. Kate nodded, something warm passing through her expression. Then we file the disclosure. It's standard procedure. Nothing complicated. But they both knew it was complicated. Everything about this was complicated. Friday afternoon, they sat across from Patricia Reynolds in HR. The woman had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, gray hair cut practical and short. She slid forms across the desk, explained policy, in a voice that suggested she'd done this 100 times. Patricia's pen tapped against her notepad. So, to be clear, this is a friendship outside of work, no romantic involvement. Kate's voice stayed level. Correct. We've had coffee, conversation, nothing romantic. Patricia's eyes moved to Daniel. Mr. Harper. He nodded, not trusting his voice. Because it was true. They hadn't crossed that line. But the potential for it lived between them like electricity, dangerous and inevitable. Patricia signed the forms. All right, you're disclosed. Just keep it professional during work hours, and if anything changes in the nature of the relationship, you come back and update me. Walking out, Kate's shoulder brushed his in the hallway. The contact sent heat through his arm. Her voice stayed low. That went well. Daniel managed, yeah. She stopped at the stairwell, turning to face him. The hallway was empty, end of day, most people already gone. Her eyes searched his face. Kate's words came careful. Can I ask you something? His heart kicked against his ribs. Sure. A beat of hesitation then. Would you want to have dinner with me as an actual, not work, not just coffee, dinner, tomorrow night? The question hung between them, a line being drawn about to be crossed. Daniel felt his lips curve despite the fear. Are you asking me on a date, Kate Morrison? Color rose in her cheeks the first time he'd seen her blush. I suppose I am. The world narrowed to just this. Her face, her hope, his choice. His voice came steady. Then yes, I'd like that. Her smile broke through, genuine and bright and devastating. 7 o'clock. I'll pick you up. Saturday evening arrived with December cold and clear skies. Daniel stood in front of his closet, same panic he'd felt before prom 17 years ago, flooding back. Owen sat on the bed offering commentary, already in pajamas. Mrs. Walker due any minute. Owen pointed at the blue button-down. That one. It makes you look grown up. Daniel pulled it on, fingers clumsy on the buttons. I am grown up. A giggle. You know what I mean? Like fancy grown up. Like you're going somewhere important. The words hit deeper than Owen knew. Daniel was going somewhere important. Towards something that terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. Mrs. Walker arrived with her knitting and a knowing smile. She shooed Daniel toward the door. Go, have fun. Don't worry about us. We'll be fine. Owen hugged him tight. Have fun, Dad. Miss Morrison is nice. Don't be nervous. Daniel's laugh came out shaky. I'm not nervous. Owen's grin said he knew better. At exactly 7, headlights swept the parking lot. Daniel's pulse jumped. He grabbed his jacket and headed down. Kate waited by her car, and the sight of her stopped his breath. Dark green dress, simple but elegant, hitting just below the knee. Hair down, falling in waves past her shoulders. Heels that brought her nearly to his height. She looked beautiful and terrifying, and nothing like the warehouse boss who barked orders over radio static. Her smile came shy, "Hi." His voice caught, "Hi. You look, wow." A laugh, soft and pleased. "You clean up pretty well yourself." The restaurant sat in the historic district downtown brick building with ivy climbing the walls, soft light spilling from windows. Inside, exposed beams crossed overhead, candles flickered on white tablecloths, low jazz played from hidden speakers. Daniel's discomfort must have shown because Kate's hand found his arm. Gentle. "Relax, it's just dinner." They settled into a corner booth. Wine list appeared. Kate ordered without looking Pinot Noir. Noir something French he couldn't pronounce. When the waiter brought it, she poured for both of them with steady hands. Kate raised her glass to new beginnings. Daniel met her eyes over the rim. To not being alone. They drank. The wine was smooth, expensive, nothing like the beer he usually managed. Everything about this night existed outside his normal world. Kate set down her glass, leaning back. "Tell me something about you I don't know." Daniel thought, "I wanted to be an engineer, had a scholarship to State University, full ride." Her eyebrows lifted. "What happened?" The old shame tried to rise. He pushed it down. "Emily got pregnant our sophomore year. We were young and stupid and in love. I dropped out to support her. Worked construction, then retail bouncing around. Never went back." Kate's expression held no judgment. "Do you regret it?" The answer came easy. "Not for a second. I got Owen. Best thing that ever happened to me." She nodded slowly. "That's how you know you made the right choice. When you wouldn't change it even knowing how hard it would be." Something in her voice suggested experience. Daniel leaned forward. "What about you? What's something I don't know?" Kate's fingers traced the stem of her wine glass. "I almost didn't take the warehouse job. I had an offer in New York. VP position at a logistics firm. More money, more prestige." Surprise flickered through him. "Why didn't you take it?" Her eyes met his, honest and raw. "Because my parents died there. The plane left from Teterboro. I couldn't imagine living in that city, seeing those airports being reminded every day." Daniel reached across the table. His hand covered hers. She didn't pull away. His voice came soft. "Sometimes the smart choice is protecting yourself." Her fingers turned threading with his. "Sometimes the smart choice is taking a risk." The weight of those words settled between them. They were talking about jobs and geography, but they both knew they meant something else entirely. Dinner arrived, steak for him, salmon for her, and they talked through it. Easy conversation that ranged from Owen's space obsession to Kate's nephew's baseball career to the absurdity of corporate bureaucracy. She made him laugh with a dead-on impression of the regional manager. He made her snort wine through her nose, describing Mike's attempt to parallel park the forklift. Dessert came chocolate, something that violated physics layers, and cream and gold leaf. They shared it, passing the fork back and forth, and the intimacy of it made Daniel's chest ache. Kate set down the fork, voice going serious. "Can I tell you something?" He nodded. She took a breath. "When I saw you at the hospital sitting there with Owen, I realized I've been lying to myself about what I want, about what matters." Daniel's heart hammered. "What do you want?" Her eyes held his, unflinching. "This connection, someone who sees me as more than just a title or a paycheck, someone who doesn't want something from me." The vulnerability in her voice made him brave. "I'm falling for you, Kate. Have been since you made pancakes for my kid." Her breath caught. A smile broke across her face, brilliant and real. "I'm falling for you too. It's terrifying." Daniel laughed, the sound rough with emotion. "Yeah, it really is." She paid the bill before he could argue. Outside, the December air bit cold, stars sharp overhead. They walked to her car slowly, neither wanting the night to end. At the passenger door, she turned to him. The street light caught in her hair, making it shine like dark water. Kate's voice came barely above a whisper. "I want to do this right, whatever this is. I don't want to rush or mess it up." Daniel nodded. "Me either. Owen's already attached to you. I need to be careful." Understanding crossed her face. "We take it slow, no pressure. Just see where it goes." He stepped closer. She didn't step back. The space between them hummed with possibility. Daniel's hand came up, cupping her cheek. Can I kiss you? Her eyes fluttered closed, please. The kiss was soft, gentle, perfect. Her lips tasted like chocolate and wine and promises. His hand slid into her hair, careful, reverent. She made a small sound in the back of her throat that shot through him like lightning. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, her forehead rested against his. Kate's voice came out rough, worth waiting for. He laughed. Yeah, really was. The drive back to his apartment passed in comfortable silence, her hand in his across the console. At the curb, she kissed him again, slower this time, deeper. Daniel pulled back just enough to speak. I'll see you Monday. Her smile held mischief. Try not to be too obvious. We have to maintain professional distance at work. The idea of keeping distance from her felt impossible now. This is going to be hard. She kissed the corner of his mouth. Good things usually are. Monday morning, the promotion became official. Daniel moved his things from the floor to a small office, really just a desk and filing cabinet in a glass-walled cube, but it was his. His name went on the door, Daniel Harper, floor supervisor. Mike was the first to shake his hand. Knew you had it in you, man. About damn time Morrison recognized it. Others followed, workers he had helped train with, sweated alongside for months. Most were genuine. Some weren't. Derek Holland appeared mid-morning, leaning in the doorway. The man was built like a linebacker, blonde hair thinning at the crown jaw and perpetually tight. 8 years at the company and nothing to show for it but resentment. Derek's voice dripped false cheer. Congrats on the promotion, Harper. Must be nice having connections. Daniel's hand stilled on the keyboard. I earned it. A snort. Sure, had nothing to do with Morrison driving you home that night in the rain or visiting you at the hospital. Heat flashed through Daniel's chest. His voice stayed level. You have something to say it directly. Derek pushed off the door frame, stepping into the office. Just interesting timing. New guy waltzes in, bats his eyes at the boss, gets promoted over people who've been here for years. Daniel stood meeting Derek eye to eye. I put in the work. Check my performance record. Derek's smile turned mean. Oh, I'm sure your performance is stellar. Question is what you're performing. The implication hung ugly in the air. Daniel's fists clenched. Every instinct screamed to swing, to defend Kate's honor and his own. But that's what Derek wanted. A reaction. Ammunition. Daniel forced his voice calm. You need to leave my office. Derek held his ground another beat, then backed away, hands up in mock surrender. Just making conversation, no hard feelings. But his eyes promised otherwise. The encounter rattled through Daniel all day. He tried to focus on training schedules and workflow optimization, but Derek's words kept circling back. People were talking. People were watching. At 3 o'clock, his radio crackled with Kate's voice. Harper conference room, now. His stomach dropped. She sounded cold, professional, angry. He found her standing at the window, arms crossed, spine rigid. 2 other people sat at the table, Patricia from HR and a man Daniel didn't recognize. Patricia's voice came careful. Mr. Harper, this is Thomas Reed from Corporate Compliance. We've received a complaint. The world tilted. Daniel forced himself to sit. What kind of complaint? Thomas, thin 50s, suit too nice for this building, opened a folder. Anonymous report alleging favoritism in your promotion. Claims that your relationship with Ms. Morrison influenced the decision inappropriately. Daniel's gaze shot to Kate. Her face was carved from stone, revealing nothing. His voice came steady despite the adrenaline flooding his veins. The promotion was based on performance. We disclosed our friendship to HR as required. Thomas's pen tapped against the folder. The disclosure was filed the day of the promotion. The complaint alleges the relationship predates that significantly. Kate spoke for the first time, ice, in every syllable. The relationship as defined by HR policy began that week. Prior to that, I gave Mr. Harper a ride home in severe weather because bus service was suspended. I visited him in the hospital because a team member was experiencing a medical emergency with his child. Neither action violates policy. Thomas's expression didn't change. Nevertheless, the complaint requires investigation. We'll be conducting interviews with staff, reviewing performance documentation, and examining the promotion decision process. Daniel's chest tightened. How long will this take? Patricia's voice softened with sympathy. usually 2 to 3 weeks. During that time, we recommend maintaining strict professional boundaries. No private conversations, no contact outside of work hours. He looked at Kate. She stared at the table, jaw clenched, refusing to meet his eyes. Thomas stood. We'll be in touch to schedule your individual interviews. Thank you for your cooperation. They filed out. Patricia touched Daniel's shoulder, a gesture of support. Thomas merely nodded. Kate remained still, facing the window. Daniel waited until the door closed. His voice came quiet. Kate. She turned. Fury blazed in her eyes, but underneath it he saw fear. Derek? It was Derek who filed the complaint. Daniel had known, but hearing it confirmed made it real. Can we prove it? She shook her head. Anonymous reports are protected, but who else would have detailed knowledge of my schedule, of your performance metrics, of every interaction we've had? The answer was obvious. Derek had been watching, cataloging, waiting for ammunition. Kate's hands clenched into fists. I can't believe this. I followed every policy. I documented everything, and still, her voice cracked. Daniel's instinct was to go to her, to hold her, to promise it would be okay. But Thomas's warning echoed, maintain strict professional boundaries. He stayed where he was, hands aching to reach for her. We'll get through this. The documentation is solid. My performance speaks for itself. Her laugh came bitter. You don't understand corporate politics. Truth doesn't matter. Perception does. And the perception is that I gave you preferential treatment. The defeat in her voice cut deeper than Derek's accusations. So what do we do? Kate straightened the mask, sliding back into place. We do nothing. We maintain distance. We let the investigation run its course. And we pray Thomas is more interested in facts than optics. She moved toward the door, pausing with her hand on the handle. I'm sorry, this is my fault. I should have been more careful. The words hit him like a gut punch. Kate, no, this is Derek being vindictive. You did nothing wrong. She didn't look back, didn't I? The door closed behind her with quiet finality. The investigation stretched across late December and into January like an open wound. Thomas interviewed everyone, floor workers, supervisors, shipping clerks. He reviewed Daniel's personnel file going back 7 months. He examined every email Kate had sent mentioning Daniel's name. The warehouse buzzed with speculation. Some people believed Daniel earned it. Others whispered behind their hands, eyes following him with knowing looks. Derek played innocent, greeting Daniel with false smiles, asking pointed questions designed to needle. Mike ran interference when he could, but even he couldn't shield Daniel from everything. The worst part was Kate. 4 weeks of professional distance that felt like miles. They communicated only when necessary through email or with others present. No texts, no calls, no acknowledgement of what they'd started to build. Daniel watched her from across the warehouse floor, shoulders tight, dark circles under her eyes, moving through each day with mechanical precision. She was hurting, and he couldn't comfort her. Owen noticed the change. One night, settling into bed, the boy's voice came small. Did you and Miss Morrison have a fight? Daniel's chest ached. Something like that, buddy. But it's complicated. Owen's eyes, so much like Emily's, searched his face. Do you still like her? The honesty came easy. Yeah, I do. A nod, processing. Does she still like you? Daniel thought about her face in the conference room, the fear and fury and something fragile underneath. I think so. I hope so. Owen's hand found his. Then it'll work out. That's what you always tell me. If two people really want something, they find a way. The simple faith in those words made Daniel's throat tight. When had his son become so wise? Mid-January, on a Friday, 2 days before the investigation's 4th week ended, Patricia called Daniel to her office. Thomas sat beside her, folders stacked on the desk between them. Thomas's expression revealed nothing. Mr. Harper, thank you for your patience during this process. We've completed our investigation. Daniel's pulse hammered in his ears. Everything balanced on this moment, his job, his future, his chance with Kate. Thomas opened the top folder. After reviewing all available evidence, interviewing 17 staff members, and examining Ms. Morrison's decision-making process in detail, we found no evidence of policy violation or inappropriate favoritism. The relief nearly knocked him sideways. Patricia smiled. Your promotion was clearly merit-based. The documentation Ms. Morrison maintained was exceptionally thorough. Every claim in the anonymous complaint was unsubstantiated. Thomas's pen clicked. However, we recommend continued vigilance regarding workplace relationships. Perception matters even when behavior is appropriate. Daniel managed, I understand, thank you. Walking out, his legs felt weak. It was over. They'd been cleared. He pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the keys. Investigation closed. We're in the clear. Kate's response came instantly. I know. Thomas called me 10 minutes ago. He waited. Three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, can we talk tonight? His heart kicked. Yes. Where my place? 7 p.m. Daniel stood in Kate's doorway for the first time since that rainstorm night in October. 3 months that felt like years. She opened the door wearing jeans and a sweater, hair loose, face bare of makeup. She looked exhausted and beautiful in his. Kate stepped back, letting him in. Thank you for coming. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine Christmas tree, still visible in the living room lights, twinkling even in mid-January. The domesticity of it made something ache in his chest. She led him to the couch. They sat careful space between them. Kate's voice came rough. I'm sorry, for the distance, for letting Derek get in my head, for doubting us. Daniel turned toward her. You were protecting yourself, I get it. She shook her head. I was being a coward. The moment things got hard, I shut down. Pushed you away. That's what I always do. Her honesty cut through him. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. Daniel's thumb traced circles on her palm. We both got scared, but we made it through. Kate's eyes met his, vulnerable and raw. I missed you, these 4 weeks. I realized how much I'd started to depend on you. How much better my days were when I could talk to you. The confession made breathing difficult. I missed you too, so did Owen. He kept asking when you were coming over again. A smile flickered across her face. How is he? Daniel's chest warmed. Good, completely recovered, driving me crazy with questions about rocket propulsion. She laughed, the sound releasing tension from the room. Her hand tightened around his. Kate's voice dropped. I don't want to waste any more time being afraid. Life's too short. I learned that when I lost my parents, and these past weeks proved it again. Daniel shifted closer. What are you saying? Her free hand came up, cupping his face. I'm saying I'm all in. If you are. I want to try this. Really try. The words he'd been holding back for weeks spilled free. I love you, Kate. Her breath caught. Tears spilled over, tracking down her cheeks. I love you too. God, I love you so much, it terrifies me. He kissed her, then deep and desperate and real. She made that sound again, the one that undid him and pulled him closer. They fell back against the couch, hands tangling in hair. Weeks of restraint breaking like a dam. When they finally surfaced, both breathing hard, Kate's head rested on his chest, his arms wrapped around her. Her voice came muffled against his shirt. Stay. Tonight. Just sleep. I don't want to be alone anymore. Daniel pressed his lips to her hair. Neither do I. They moved upstairs to her bedroom the first time he'd seen it. Simple, clean, nothing excessive. Just a bed and dresser and window overlooking the backyard. She lent him a t-shirt that smelled like her laundry detergent. They climbed under his covers fully clothed, and she curled into his side like she'd been doing it for years. Daniel's hand traced patterns on her back. Is this okay, us moving this fast? Kate's fingers played with the hem of his borrowed shirt. We're not moving fast. We're just finally moving in the direction we should have been all along. The rightness of it settled into his bones. This woman in his arms, this room, this moment, it all felt inevitable. Like every hard thing that had come before was just preparation for this. Sleep claimed them both tangled together, finally at peace. February arrived with Arctic cold and expansion preparations consuming the warehouse. Daniel's supervisor role became real training, new hires, adjusting schedules, solving problems before they reached Kate. He was good at it, better than he'd expected. Derek's hostility simmered beneath forced professionalism. The failed investigation had marked him, made him desperate. Daniel could see it in the way Derek watched Kate and the comments he made about corporate favoritism, in the small sabotages that couldn't quite be proven. A shipment went to the wrong dock. Derek claimed he relayed Daniel's instructions correctly. Safety equipment went missing. Derek suggested Daniel wasn't maintaining proper inventory. Small things, annoying things, things designed to make Daniel look incompetent. Mike warned him, watch your back with Holland. He's out for blood. Daniel knew, but proving it was another matter. Kate noticed too. One evening after hours in her office, she closed the door and faced him with arms crossed. Derek's targeting you. Daniel leaned against her desk. I know. Her jaw clenched. I could transfer him. Fine cause. The offer tempted him. But Daniel shook his head. That proves his point, that we're playing favorites. Let him hang himself. Kate's expression flickered with frustration. And if he sabotages you first, Daniel reached for her hand, pulling her close. Then I trust you'll see through it, and I'll handle it. She searched his face, then nodded slowly. You're better at this than I am. The politics. He kissed her forehead. You're better at the strategy. We make a good team. Her arms slid around his waist. Yeah, we do. They'd been careful at work, professional, distant, appropriate. But alone in her office door, closed, the want between them made restraint difficult. Kate's voice came low. Owen's at a sleepover this weekend, right? Daniel's pulse kicked. Yeah, Saturday night. Her eyes met his, dark with intent. Come over. I'll make dinner. We can talk. The way she said talk made heat pool in his stomach. Just talk. A smile curved her lips. To start. Saturday evening arrived with anticipation thrumming through Daniel's veins. He dropped Owen at his friend's house, endured Mrs. Walker's knowing look, and drove to Kate's neighborhood with hands slightly shaking. She answered the door in a dress that made his brain short-circuit, deep red fitted, shorter than anything he'd seen her wear. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders, makeup subtle but deliberate. Kate's smile turned wicked. Hi. Daniel's voice came out rough. You're trying to kill me. She stepped back, letting him in. Is it working? He pulled her against him, kissing her hard. She laughed against his mouth, melting into him. Dinner was perfect pasta she'd made from scratch wine that cost more than his grocery budget, candlelight making everything soft. They talked about expansion plans and Owen's upcoming science fair and the complete absurdity of corporate email chains. But underneath the conversation, electricity hummed. Every look charged, every touch deliberate. After dinner, Kate led him to the couch. They sat close, her legs tucked under her, his arm around her shoulders. Kate's fingers traced patterns on his thigh. Can I ask you something personal? Daniel's breath shortened. Anything. She bit her tongue, hesitating. When was the last time since Emily? Understanding hit. He cupped her face gently. 6 years. There's been no one since her. Surprise and something tender crossed Kate's expression. No one. He shook his head. Didn't want anyone. Until you. Her kiss was soft, reverent, promising. When she pulled back, her voice came barely above a whisper. Take me upstairs. Daniel stood, pulling her with him. They climbed the stairs hand in hand, hearts thundering in sync. In her bedroom, moonlight spilled through windows, painting everything silver. Kate turned to him, vulnerability and desire warring in her eyes. I'm nervous. He stepped closer, hands gentle on her waist. Me too. She laughed, the sound shaky. Robert said I was too controlled, too cold. That being with me was like... Daniel kissed her, cutting off the words. Robert was an idiot. You're not cold. You're careful. There's a difference, Rupert. Her hand slid up his chest around his neck. I don't want to be careful anymore. What happened next was tender and fumbling, imperfect. They learned each other slowly with patience and laughter and whispered promises. She was beautiful, all curves and soft skin and responsiveness that made his head spin. And when she said his name like a prayer, when her nails dug into his shoulders, when she shattered in his arms, Daniel knew he was completely, irrevocably hers. After tangled in sheets, her head on his chest, Kate's voice came soft. Stay. Not just tonight. Stay with me. Daniel's arms tightened around her. I'm not going anywhere. She tilted her head up, eyes serious. I mean, really stay. Move in with me. You and Owen. This house is too big for one person. And her voice caught. I want you here. Both of you. I want to be a family. The enormity of what she was offering settled over him. Not just a relationship, a life, a future, a home for Owen with a backyard and an oak tree, and a woman who made pancakes and loved them both. Daniel's voice came thick with emotion. Are you sure Owen comes with a lot? Space documentaries and questions and mess and... Kate pressed her finger to his lips. I know exactly what I'm signing up for, and I want it, all of it. His kiss tasted like gratitude and joy, and promises kept. Then yes, we'll stay. Her smile blazed brighter than any star Owen ever studied. Late February brought moving boxes and case and Owen's delighted shrieking as he discovered his new room with windows overlooking the oak tree. Mike and his wife helped haul furniture. Mrs. Walker supervised with tea and commentary. Kate's sister Jenny appeared with champagne and terrible jokes. The house filled with life, Owen's toys scattered across the living room, Daniel's work boots by the door, 3 toothbrushes in the bathroom instead of 1. It was messy and loud and imperfect and exactly what Kate needed. Owen called her mom for the first time on a random Tuesday in early March while she helped with homework. The word fell so naturally, neither of them remarked on it until later that night. Kate climbed into bed beside Daniel, face wet with happy tears. He called me Mom. Daniel pulled her close. Is that okay? She nodded against his chest. It's everything. March arrived with corporate audits and expansion stress compounding. Kate worked 16-hour days, shoulders tight, with tension, barely eating. Daniel watched her burning out and felt helpless. Derek's sabotage escalated. Equipment malfunctions that could be traced to shortcuts in Daniel's training protocols. Safety violations that appeared on shifts he supervised. Nothing provable, but the pattern was clear. Then Robert Mitchell appeared. The man walked into the warehouse on a Tuesday afternoon wearing a suit that cost more than Daniel's car. Tall, dark-haired, confident, in that way money breeds. He asked reception for Kate, and something in Daniel's gut twisted cold. Kate's face when she saw him went pale, then hard. She met Robert in the parking lot, where Daniel couldn't hear but could see through the window. Their body language told the story, Robert pleading, Kate refusing his hand on her arm, her yanking away. When she came back inside, Daniel caught her in the hallway. Who was that? Kate's voice came clipping. My ex-fiancé. He wants to talk. Says he made a mistake. Jealousy spiked through Daniel's chest, and, she looked at him like he was crazy. And I told him I'm with someone I actually love, that he had his chance and wasted it, that he needs to leave. Relief and something fiercer flooded through him. He's persistent. Kate's hand found his breaking protocol, but not caring. He's irrelevant. You're my choice, Daniel. You've been my choice since pancakes. The corporate auditor arrived the next Monday, a woman named Sharon with sharp eyes and a briefcase full of trouble. She reviewed every process, questioned every decision, looked for inefficiency with laser focus. Kate worked herself to the bone, preparing reports, justifying expenditures, proving the expansion's worth. Daniel tried to help, but his supervisor role only covered the floor. Strategy was Kate's domain. Thursday night, he found her in her office at 10 p.m., surrounded by spreadsheets, hands shaking as she typed. Daniel closed the door. You need to eat, sleep, stop. Kate didn't look up. I can't. Sharon found discrepancies in the Q3 numbers. If I can't explain them, corporate shuts us down. Everyone loses their jobs. He moved behind her chair, hands on her shoulders, kneading the knots. You'll fix it, you always do. She leaned back into his touch. What if I can't this time? What if I finally hit something I can't control? The fear in her voice alarmed him. This was Kate Morrison, the woman who controlled everything, who never admitted weakness, who carried the weight alone. Daniel turned her chair, kneeling so their eyes met. Then you let me help, let Jenny help, let the team help. You don't have to do this alone. Tears spilled over. I don't know how to not do it alone. His heart cracked for her. You start by telling me what you need. She pulled him close, burying her face in his shoulder. I need everything to stop. Just for 1 minute. I need to not be the one holding it all together. Daniel stood, pulling her with him. Come on. He led her to the couch in her office, pulled her into his lap. She curled against him like a child, exhausted and overwhelmed, and finally letting someone see it. His hand stroked her hair. You can't build a life on fear. You can only survive on it, and surviving isn't living. The words, her own thrown back with love, made her laugh through tears. When did you get so wise? Daniel kissed her temple. I had a good teacher. Friday morning, Kate woke with determination carved into every line of her body. She assembled her management team. Daniel, 2 other supervisors, the shift leads, and delegated tasks she'd been clutching like lifelines. The team responded with efficiency that proved they'd been ready all along. She just needed to trust them. Sharon's audit continued through Friday afternoon. Kate presented her corrected reports, explained the discrepancies, vendor error not internal, and defended every expansion decision with data. At 4 p.m., Sharon closed her laptop. "I've seen enough." Kate's face revealed nothing, but Daniel saw her hands clench under the desk. And Sharon's expression softened. "This facility is the highest performing in the region. Your expansion strategy is sound. Your team is well-trained and efficient. I'll be recommending full approval and additional investment." The relief that washed through the room was palpable. Kate nodded professional to the end. "Thank you." After Sharon left, Kate made it to the bathroom before her knees gave out. Daniel found her there, sitting on the floor, crying with her head in her hands. He slid down beside her, pulling her close. "It's over. You did it." She sobbed against his chest, weeks of stress and fear and exhaustion pouring out in gasping breaths. He held her through it, saying nothing, just being present. When the storm passed, she looked up with red eyes and a watery smile. "I couldn't have done this without you." Daniel wiped her tears with his thumb. "Yes, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to." Derek's last sabotage attempt came in late April. A shipment of high-value electronics went missing on Daniel's shift. The loss report landed on Kate's desk with Derek's signature at the bottom, along with pointed questions about Daniel's supervision. But this time, Derek had gone too far. Security footage showed Derek himself rerouting the shipment to the wrong dock, then filing the report. Thomas from compliance reviewed the evidence and terminated Derek on the spot. Walking to his car with his belongings in a box, Derek passed Daniel on the floor. His sneer held no remorse. "She'll get tired of you eventually. You're not enough." The old Daniel would have believed it, would have let that poison sink in and fester. But Daniel Harper's supervisor, fiancé, father just smiled. "Maybe, but I'll be enough today, and tomorrow, and the day after that. That's all any of us can do." Derek's face twisted. He left without another word. Mike clapped Daniel on the shoulder. "You're a better man than me. I'd have decked him." Daniel watched Derek disappear. "He's not worth it. I've got everything I need right here." And he did. Wedding planning should have been simple. Small ceremony, close friends, backyard venue at Jenny's house. But simple had a way of becoming complicated when emotions ran high. Kate sat at the kitchen table one evening in late April, surrounded by vendor quotes and guest list revisions, stress radiating from her rigid shoulders. Daniel slid into the chair beside her. "What's wrong?" Her voice came tight. "My dress fitting is the same day as the final walkthrough with the caterer. And Jenny just told me the string quartet double booked, so we need new musicians. And the florist says white roses are out of season, so we have to pick different flowers." She looked up, eyes bright with frustration. "This was supposed to be simple." Daniel took her hand. "It is simple. We're getting married. Everything else is just details." Kate's laugh came sharp. "Easy for you to say. You just have to show up in a suit." The accusation stung, but Daniel recognized stress, talking not Kate. "Then let's cut. What doesn't matter? Do we need a string quartet? Do the flowers have to be roses?" She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Her shoulders dropped. "No, I guess not." Daniel squeezed her fingers. "What do you actually want? Strip away what you think you're supposed to want. What matters to you?" Kate's voice came quiet. "You, Owen, are people there to celebrate. That's it." He smiled. "Then that's what we do. Jenny can handle the rest. That's what sisters are for." The tension bled from Kate's posture. She leaned against him, exhausted. "When did you get so wise about this stuff?" Daniel's chest filled with warmth. "Had a good teacher. She showed me that asking for help isn't weakness." Kate turned her head, kissing his jaw. "I love you." The words still made his heart stutter. "Love you too." The dress fitting happened on a Tuesday in early May. Kate returned home glowing, refusing to describe anything beyond "it fits perfectly." Daniel spent the evening with Owen, helping with homework and fielding questions about the wedding. Owen's curiosity was endless. "Will I have to wear a tie?" Daniel nodded. "Afraid so, buddy." A theatrical groan. "But ties are uncomfortable." The response came gentle but firm. "So's growing up, but we do hard things for people we love." Owen processed this, then nodded acceptance. "Okay, I'll wear the tie." Pride swelled in Daniel's chest. This boy learning to compromise, to show up, to honor commitments. The best legacy a father can leave his son isn't money. It's showing him how to stand back up. And Owen was learning to stand on his own even at 9. The final week before the wedding blurred past. Last-minute details consumed every spare moment. Daniel's suit needed alterations. Owen's shoes arrived a size too small and had to be exchanged. The weather forecast predicted rain. Kate spiraled into controlled panic on Wednesday evening, pacing the living room. What if it rains? Jenny's backyard will be mud. We can't fit everyone inside. Daniel caught her mid-pace, hands on her shoulders. Then we get wet, or we move it, or we postpone. But we're getting married, Kate. One way or another, you're going to be my wife. The certainty in his voice cut through her anxiety. Kate's breathing slowed. You really don't care about the details, do you? He shook his head. I care about marrying you. The rest is just window dressing. Her kiss tasted like relief and coffee and promises. How did I get so lucky? Daniel's thumb traced her cheekbone. I ask myself that every day. Thursday brought Jenny with final checklists and military precision. She commandeered the kitchen table, barking orders via phone, while simultaneously confirming vendor arrivals. Kate watched her sister work with affectionate exasperation. You're terrifying when you're in event mode. Jenny's grin flashed bright. You wanted this to be perfect. I'm making it perfect. The forecast changed Friday morning. Clear skies, 72 degrees, gentle breeze. Perfect weather for a garden wedding. Kate's relief was palpable. The universe is cooperating. Daniel pulled her close. Or maybe we're just due for some good luck. Saturday morning arrived with nerves and excitement tangling in Daniel's stomach. He woke before dawn, unable to sleep, and found Owen already awake in the living room. His son looked up from the couch. Can't sleep either. Daniel sat beside him. Too much going on in my head. Owen leaned against his father's side, comfortable and trusting. Are you scared? The honesty came easy. A little. Getting married is a big deal. Owen's voice held childlike wisdom. But you love her, right? Daniel's chest warmed. More than anything. The boy nodded, satisfied. Then it'll be okay. Love makes scary things less scary. From the mouths of children came truth Daniel needed to hear. He wrapped an arm around Owen. When did you get so smart? A giggle. I've always been smart. You just notice more now. The morning passed in a blur of preparation. Kate left early for Jenny's house, taking her dress and makeup, and strict orders that Daniel not see her until the ceremony. Mike arrived at 10 to help Daniel and Owen get ready. He tied Owen's Zaheim with practiced efficiency, then fixed Daniel's collar when nervous hands fumbled the task. Mike's voice came warm. You doing okay? Daniel met his friend's eyes in the mirror. Yeah, really okay. Understanding passed between them. She's good for you, makes you remember how to smile. The words carried weight. Mike had known Daniel through the worst grief, had watched him barely survive, had seen the slow resurrection Kate had sparked. Daniel's throat tightened. Thanks for sticking around. Through everything. Mike's hand landed solid on his shoulder. That's what brothers do. Jenny's backyard had transformed into something from a magazine. White chairs arranged in neat rows facing an arch covered in greenery and cream-colored flowers Daniel couldn't name. String lights crisscrossed overhead, ready for the evening reception. Tables draped in white linen waited for guests. 40 people filtered in, warehouse workers, neighbors, Kate's colleagues, Jenny's friends. Mrs. Walker sat front row, tissues already clutched in her hand. Mike's family filled a row, his kids squirming in their dress clothes. Daniel stood under the arch with Owen beside him, heart thundering against his ribs. The officiant, a friend of Jenny's who'd gotten ordained online, smiled encouragingly. Music started, a simple guitar melody live from Jenny's neighbor who played weekends at coffee shops. Everyone stood. Kate appeared at the end of the aisle on Jenny's arm, and Daniel's world narrowed to just her. The dress was simple, cream-colored, fitted at the waist, falling to just below her knees. No veil, no train, no unnecessary embellishment. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders, held back by small flowers. Minimal makeup. She looked like herself, only more so. But it was her face that stopped Daniel's breath. The smile genuine and bright and unguarded. The tears already tracking down her cheeks. The way she looked at him like he was the answer to every question she'd ever asked. Jenny delivered Kate to Daniel's side, whispered something that made Kate laugh through tears, then took her seat. Kate's hands found Daniel's trembling slightly. His voice came low just for her, "Hi." Her laugh broke free, watery and perfect, "Hi." The officiant began speaking words about love and commitment and choosing each other daily. Daniel heard them distantly, too focused on Kate's face, her hands in his, the reality that in minutes she'd be his wife. The vows came. Daniel had written his down, but when the moment arrived, the paper stayed in his pocket. The words came from his heart instead. His voice shook but held steady. "Kate, I spent 6 years believing I'd already had my chance at happiness. That surviving was enough, that asking for more was greedy." He swallowed hard. "Then you drove me home in a rainstorm, made pancakes for my kid, showed up at a hospital when you didn't have to. You saw me when I felt invisible. You chose me when I thought I wasn't worth choosing." Kate's tears fell faster. Daniel continued, "I promised to keep showing up. For you, for Owen, for us. I promised to let you help carry the weight instead of trying to do everything alone. I promised to make you pancakes even though they'll be terrible." Laughter rippled through the guests. His voice dropped intimate and fierce. "But most of all, I promised to choose you. Every single day, in the hard moments and the easy ones, when it's scary and when it's simple. Because you can't build a life on fear. You can only survive on it. And surviving isn't living. You taught me that. You taught me to live again." Silence held for a beat, emotion thick in the air. Kate's turn came. She'd written her vows, two hands shaking as she unfolded the paper. But like Daniel, she set it aside. Her voice came strong despite tears. "Daniel, I convinced myself I didn't need anyone. That success and control and keeping everyone at arm's length was enough. That being alone was safer than risking my heart." She squeezed his hands. "You proved me wrong about everything. You showed me that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about what you do with the pieces. You showed me that love isn't something to fear. It's something to run toward, even when it terrifies you." Her breath caught. "Owen, sweetheart, come here." Owen stepped forward, eyes wide. Kate knelt to his level, still holding one of Daniel's hands. "I promise to love your dad with everything I have. But I also promise to love you, to be the mom you deserve, to show up for soccer games and science fairs and middle-of-the-night bad dreams. You're part of this too. We're a family, all three of us." Owen's hug nearly knocked her over. The crowd's collective awe was audible. Kate stood Owen between her and Daniel now and finished her vows. "I promise to choose this, choose you, choose us. Even when work is crazy and life is hard and we disagree about whose turn it is to do dishes." Daniel laughed, Owen giggling beside them. Her voice went soft, serious. "Success without someone to share it with is just expensive loneliness. You ended my loneliness, both of you. So I promise to never let you feel alone again. We're in this together, always." The officiant's voice broke through the moment. "Do you have the rings?" Owen produced them from his pocket with exaggerated care. They'd let him hold them, trusting him with this responsibility. The rings slid on simple platinum bands that caught the afternoon light. The officiant smiled. "By the power vested in me by the internet, in the state I now pronounce you husband and wife. Daniel, you may kiss your bride." Daniel cupped Kate's face, thumbs wiping away tears, and kissed her soft and sweet. The cheer that erupted made them both laugh against each other's lips. They pulled apart, foreheads touching, and Daniel whispered, "I love you, Mrs. Harper." Kate's smile blazed. "I love you too, Mr. Harper." His laugh came pure joy. "We figured it out." The recessional music started. Daniel took Kate's hand, Owen grabbed Kate's other hand, and they walked back down the aisle together, a family official and complete. The reception unfolded with warmth and laughter. Dinner was simple: grilled chicken and vegetables, salad bread. Nothing fancy, but plentiful and good. Speeches started after dessert. Jenny stood first, wine glass raised, tears already streaming. Her voice carried across the gathered crowd. "Kate's my big sister, which means I've spent my whole life watching her be smarter, more organized, and way more responsible than me." Laughter rippled through guests. Jenny continued, But I also watched her close herself off after our parents died, watched her work herself to exhaustion, watched her convince herself that being alone was a choice, not a wound. She looked at Daniel. Then this guy showed up, soaking wet, inappropriate at all the wrong times with a kid who asked about rocket fuel at breakfast. More laughter. Daniel felt his face heat. Jenny's expression went tender. And my sister started smiling again, started leaving work at reasonable hours, started believing she deserved more than just success. She deserved happiness. She raised her glass higher. So here's to Daniel for being brave enough to love my sister, to Owen for making us all remember what matters, and to Kate for finally letting someone in. May your life together be filled with terrible pancakes and good coffee and love that doesn't quit. Everyone drank. Kate was crying openly now, makeup ruined, not caring. Mike stood next, beer in hand. I'm not good at speeches, so I'll keep this short. He looked at Daniel. I've known this man for years. Watched him lose his wife, watched him struggle, watched him nearly break trying to be enough for his kid. His voice roughened. The Daniel I met 8 months ago was surviving. Barely. The Daniel standing here is living. That's all, Kate. That's what love does. It reminds you how to breathe. Mike raised his beer. To breathing, to living, to family you choose and family you build. Congratulations. The toast was drunk with enthusiasm. Owen stood then, surprising everyone. He climbed onto his chair, plastic cup of juice held aloft. His voice came clear and serious. I don't know how to make a good speech, but I wanted to say thank you. He looked at Kate. Thank you for loving my dad, for making him laugh, for helping with my homework, even when fractions are terrible. Kate's hands covered her mouth, tears flowing. Owen's gaze shifted to Daniel. And thank you, Dad, for showing me it's okay to be sad sometimes. And it's okay to be happy again. Mom would like Kate. I know she would. The words hit Daniel like a freight train. He stood cross to his son, pulled him into a fierce hug. Owen whispered against his ear, Did I do good? Daniel's voice came thick. You did perfect, buddy. Dancing started as the sun set and string lights illuminated the backyard. Daniel and Kate had their first dance to a song neither could name later, too caught up in holding each other to notice the music. Kate's voice came soft against his shoulder. This is perfect. Daniel kissed her hair. Yeah, it really is. They swayed together, surrounded by people who loved them, and Daniel thought about how far they'd come, from a rainstorm and desperation to this joy and celebration in a future that looked bright. Owen danced with them, eventually standing on Daniel's feet like he had as a toddler. Then Kate took Owen's hands and spun him around while Daniel watched, heart too full for words. Mrs. Walker caught Daniel later pressing a tissue-wrapped package into his hands. For you and the missus. Open it later. Inside was a photo frame holding a picture from the ceremony, Daniel, Kate, and Owen under the arch, at all three laughing at something. Below it in Mrs. Walker's shaky handwriting, family isn't just blood. It's who shows up. Daniel showed Kate. She read it and pulled the older woman into a hug. Thank you for everything, Mrs. Walker patted her back. You take care of my boys. They're good people. Kate's promise came fierce. I will. Always. The evening wound down slowly. Guests departed with hugs and well wishes. Jenny supervised cleanup with the same efficiency she'd brought to planning. Finally, just family remained. Jenny and her son Tyler helped fold chairs. Mike and Beth carried leftover food to cars. Owen dozed on a bench, exhausted from excitement. Daniel found Kate standing under the arch looking at the empty chairs. He wrapped arms around her from behind. What are you thinking? She leaned back into him. That I've never been this happy. That I'm terrified I'll wake up and it'll be a dream. Daniel turned her to face him. It's real. We're real. This is our life now. Kate's hands framed his face. I spent so long protecting myself, building walls, convincing myself that needing someone made me weak. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Thank you for breaking through those walls, for being patient, for choosing us. Daniel kissed her slow and deep and full of promises. Always, every day, no matter what. They drove home together, Daniel, Kate, and Owen half asleep in the back seat. The house waited warm and welcoming, full of their combined lives. Kate carried Owen inside while Daniel grabbed wedding gifts from the trunk. They tucked their son into bed together, team a unit, a family. In their bedroom, Kate unzipped her dress while Daniel loosened his tie. They moved around each other with easy familiarity, marriage certificate, sitting on the dresser, proof that what they'd built was official and binding and real. Later, tangled in sheets, Kate's voice came sleepy and content. The Harper family, I like the sound of that. Daniel's laugh rumbled through his chest. Yeah, me too. Kate kissed him once more, then curled against his side head on his chest, breathing already evening out towards sleep. Daniel lay awake a while longer, thinking about rainstorms and hospital rooms, and the way life could break you open and put you back together into something better than before. Owen's ninth birthday arrived with June sunshine and Daniel's determination to make it memorable. The boy had been through hospital stays and midnight terrors and watching his father fall in love. He deserved a celebration that felt normal and joyful and exactly what childhood should be. Kate found Daniel at the kitchen table on a Wednesday evening, surrounded by party planning printouts and budget calculations. Her hand touched his shoulder. You're overthinking this. Daniel gestured at the chaos. 23 kids. That's what he wants to invite. His whole class plus 2 friends from the building. How do I make that work? Kate pulled up a chair, scanning his notes. We make it work together. My sister Jenny does event planning. She owes me a favor. And Mike's wife mentioned she has party supplies in her garage from their daughter's birthday. The word we settled warm in Daniel's chest. 4 months of marriage had made we natural inevitable right. His voice came grateful. I've got about $300 saved from my last paycheck, after the mortgage and Owen's new shoes. Kate's fingers found his threading together. I've got the rest. Don't argue. This is what family does. Daniel started to protest, then stopped. Pride had nearly cost him everything. Learning to accept help to let Kate be part of this was its own kind of strength. The words came honest, thank you for wanting to do this with us. Her kiss landed soft on his temple. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Planning consumed the next 2 weeks. Jenny arrived with a binder full of ideas and enough energy to power the entire warehouse. She and Kate argued good-naturedly about decorations, while Daniel assembled a guest list and Mike secured a pavilion at Riverside Park. Mrs. Walker insisted on baking the cake a 3-layer chocolate monstrosity with astronaut figurines Owen had picked out himself. The neighbor's hands shook slightly as she piped frosting, but her smile held fierce pride. Her voice came firm when Daniel tried to pay her. That boy is sunshine. Let me do this. Saturday morning dawned clear and bright. Daniel woke early, nerves jangling, to find Kate already up and making breakfast. She handed him coffee. Owen's still asleep. Relax. Daniel's laugh came tight. 23 kids, bounce house, cake, pizza for an army. What could go wrong? Kate's arms slid around his waist from behind her cheek, pressing against his back. Everything. But we'll handle it together. The park pavilion transformed under Jenny's direction. Blue and silver balloons clustered at every corner. A banner proclaimed, Happy 9th birthday, Owen, in letters 2 feet tall. The bounce house, rented with money from Daniel's tax refund, inflated with a whoosh that made passing joggers stare. Kids started arriving at 2. Owen greeted each one with bouncing excitement, his astronaut t-shirt already stained with pre-party popsicle. Daniel watched his son, this boy who'd been so quiet after Emily died, who'd learned to hide his sadness to protect his father, and felt his throat close up. Kate's hand found his. He's happy. The simplicity of it broke something open in Daniel's chest. Yeah, he really is. Mike showed up with his family and a present wrapped in metallic paper. His wife Beth brought potato salad and knowing smiles. Other warehouse workers appeared, Tony from shipping, Sarah from inventory, even Frank, the shift supervisor who never socialized. Mrs. Walker arrived in her Sunday best cake box, held like precious cargo. Jenny swooped in to help her set up the dessert table, chattering about frosting techniques, while the older woman beamed. The afternoon blurred into controlled chaos. Kids screaming with joy in the bounce house. Pizza boxes stacking up as fast as Jenny could distribute slices. Owen's face splitting into smiles so wide they looked painful. Daniel stood back at one point, just watching. His son laughing with friends. Kate helping a small girl who'd scraped her knee, applying a Band-Aid with gentle competence. Mike chasing down a boy who'd decided the parking lot looked fun to explore. This family they'd built, imperfect and loud, and absolutely perfect. Tony appeared at Daniel's elbow, voice warm. You did good, man. Kid's having the time of his life. Daniel's vision blurred. Couldn't have done it without help. Tony clapped his shoulder. That's the thing about family. You're not supposed to do it alone. The words settled into Daniel like truth he'd been avoiding for years. A man's worth isn't measured by his paycheck. It's measured by whether he shows up when it matters. And showing up didn't mean doing everything yourself. It meant being brave enough to build something bigger than your own two hands could hold. Cake time arrived with off-key singing and Owen's face glowing in the candlelight. He made a wish, eyes squeezed shut, lips moving in silent prayer, then blew out all 9 candles in one breath. The cheer that went up made birds scatter from nearby trees. Later, as parents collected sugar-crashed children and the sun dipped toward the horizon, Owen found Daniel cleaning up paper plates. His son's hug came fierce and unexpected. "Best birthday ever, Dad." Daniel knelt to eye level. "Yeah." Owen nodded, serious. "Thank you for everything, for Kate, for making our family bigger." The words hit Daniel square in the chest. He pulled Owen close, breathing in the smell of cake and grass and childhood. "You're welcome, buddy. I love you." Owen's voice came muffled against his shoulder. "Love you too. And I'm glad Kate's my mom for real now." Daniel pulled back, searching his son's face. "You're happy with us being married with how things are." Owen's expression held 9-year-old wisdom and something older. "Mom would want you to be happy. She told me once before the accident that if anything happened to her, you should find someone who makes you smile. Kate makes you smile." The memory of Emily, her foresight, her love, even in theoretical tragedy, made Daniel's eyes sting. "She does. She really does." Owen grinned. "Plus, Kate makes way better pancakes than you." Daniel laughed through tears. "Everyone makes better pancakes than me." Kate appeared, surveying the wreckage of birthday party success. "Need help?" Owen launched himself at her, wrapping arms around her waist. "Thank you for the best party ever." Kate's surprise gave way to warmth, her hands settling on Owen's shoulders. "You're welcome, sweetheart. Did you have fun?" The question was met with enthusiastic nodding. Daniel watched them, his son and the woman who'd chosen to love them both, and felt the future solidify. Not into certainty. Life didn't work that way, but into commitment, into choice, into family. 1 year after the wedding, Daniel stood in the backyard of their house, the same house where they'd married, where they'd built their life together, and watched his son play catch with Mike's kids. The Sunday afternoon barbecue had become tradition. Mike and Beth Jenny and Tyler Mrs. Walker, in her lawn chair colleagues from the warehouse who'd become genuine friends. Kate appeared at his side, 2 beers in hand, passing him one. "Penny for your thoughts." Daniel accepted the beer, slipping an arm around her waist. "Just thinking about how different life looks now." She followed his gaze to Owen, laughing as he missed a catch. "Good different." His answer came immediate, "The best different." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching their community gather and connect. Jenny approached, carrying a suspiciously wrapped package. "Okay, so don't be mad." Kate's eyebrow rose. "That's never a good start." Jenny thrust the package at them. "I may have gotten you an anniversary gift that's actually for the whole family." Inside was a photo album. The first page showed Daniel soaking wet in the warehouse parking lot, looking lost. Kate had apparently asked Mike to take it that night, documenting the moment everything changed. Subsequent pages chronicled their journey: Owen's hospital stay, the first date, moving day, the birthday party, the wedding. Candid shots and formal portraits, building a visual story of their life together. The final page was blank except for a note in Jenny's handwriting, for all the moments still to come. Kate's voice came choked. "Jen, this is..." Jenny hugged her sister. "You deserve to remember how far you've come. Both of you." Daniel paged through the album, pausing on a photo from the wedding. Kate looking at him like he'd hung the moon. Owen between them, grinning with a missing front tooth. His voice came rough with emotion. "Thank you." Jenny squeezed his shoulder. "That's what family does. We show up, we document, we remind each other that the hard times don't last forever." Owen ran over, grass-stained and happy. "Dad, Mom, can we get a dog now?" "Please." Kate and Daniel exchanged glances. They'd been discussing this for weeks. Daniel's voice held mock seriousness. "Only if you promise to walk it every day." Owen's shriek of joy was answer enough. As the afternoon wore into evening, as friends gathered around the grill and laughter filled the air, Daniel pulled Kate aside. His words came soft but certain. A year ago, I was standing in rain thinking my life was as good as it would get, that I should be grateful for survival. Kate's hand found his, and now Daniel looked at their house, their friends, their son, playing with a confidence that came from security and love. Now I know that survival was never the goal. Living was. Building this, he gestured at everything around them. This is living. Kate's kiss tasted like barbecue sauce and beer and happiness. I love you, Daniel Harper. His response came easy, natural, true. I love you, Catherine Harper. Thank you for the rainstorm. She laughed against his mouth. Thank you for terrible pancakes. They pulled apart foreheads, touching, and Daniel thought about the journey, about how strength wasn't about carrying everything alone, about how asking for help was its own kind of courage, about how love, real love, wasn't something that happened to you. It was something you chose every single day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard, Owen called them over to admire something he'd found in the grass. They went together, hands linked, ready for whatever came next, because that's what family did. They showed up. They chose each other. They built something bigger than any one person could create alone. And in a world that often felt broken and hard, that was everything. The sun set over their backyard, painting everything gold. Daniel stood with Kate's hand in his, Owen leaning against his legs, surrounded by the people who'd become their chosen family. This was the life he'd stopped believing was possible. The future he'd been too afraid to want. The happiness he'd convinced himself he didn't deserve. And it was real. It was his. It was theirs. The rainstorm that had brought them together felt like destiny now, though Daniel knew better. It wasn't fate. It was choice. Kate choosing to offer a ride. Daniel choosing to accept help. Both of them choosing every day after to keep showing up for each other. That was the real legacy he'd leave his son. Not money or status or achievement. Just this, the courage to be vulnerable. The strength to ask for help. The wisdom to know that being broken isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of building something new. Owen tugged his sleeve. Dad, the hamburgers are ready. Daniel smiled down at his son. Let's go eat, buddy. They walked toward the grill together, Daniel, Kate, and Owen, a family forged not from blood alone, but from choice and commitment and love that didn't quit. Behind them, the photo album lay open on the picnic table, documenting their journey from loneliness to belonging. The blank pages at the end waited for new memories, new moments, new proof that second chances were real and worth fighting for. The future stretched ahead, unknown and uncertain, and absolutely perfect.